Your doctor never told you this, but your diabetes medications might be working overtime to fix a problem that three dirt cheap minerals could solve in weeks. Right now, your cells are screaming for specific trace elements that directly control how insulin works at the cellular level. Without them, your pancreas burns out faster, your blood sugar swings wider, and your A1C climbs higher no matter how perfectly you eat or how many pills you take. The pharmaceutical industry makes billions keeping you focused on drugs, while these overlooked minerals sit on pharmacy shelves for less than the cost of a single prescription copay. Clinical studies prove they can drop fasting glucose by 30 points, slash insulin resistance by 40%, and protect the exact cells that produce insulin from oxidative burnout. What you're about to discover could completely change how you manage diabetes. Chromium polynicotinate stands as the safer, more effective form of chromium compared to the more commonly discussed picolinate. This trace mineral works as a biological key that activates GLUT4 transporters, the molecular bridges that move glucose from your bloodstream into muscle cells where it belongs. When chromium levels drop, those bridges stay closed, leaving sugar trapped in your blood even when insulin is present and working. The deficiency checklist reads like a typical day for most diabetics, but few people connect these symptoms to missing chromium. Uncontrollable sugar cravings, energy crashes between meals, brain fog that makes simple tasks feel impossible, and mood swings that appear without warning. Your blood sugar meter tells a story of unpredictable spikes and drops that seem impossible to control. The mechanism behind chromium's power centers on those GLUT4 transporters. These proteins normally sit inside your cells, waiting for insulin signal to move to the cell surface. Once there, they grab glucose molecules from your blood and pull them inside. Chromium amplifies this entire process by making the transporters more responsive to insulin's command. Research shows that chromium picolinate increases insulin-stimulated glucose transport by 30 to 43%, with plasma membrane GLUT4 levels rising by 38% when chromium is present. What makes this remarkable is that chromium doesn't force glucose into cells artificially. Instead, it restores the natural communication between insulin and your cells, allowing the system to work as designed. The science backing chromium is substantial. Studies demonstrate fasting glucose drops of 15 to 25 milligrams per deciliter with 200 to 400 micrograms daily. Post-meal spikes decrease by 20 to 35 milligrams per deciliter, while insulin sensitivity improves by 35 to 48%. Your liver reduces glucose production by 25%, stopping the excess sugar that floods your system overnight. How deficiency happens tells a disturbing story about modern food, and it explains why eating healthy, whole grains doesn't guarantee you're safe. Processing strips 90% of chromium from grains, so white bread and pasta offer almost nothing. High-sugar diets force your kidneys to flush chromium through urine, creating a vicious cycle where the more sugar you eat, the more chromium you lose, which makes controlling sugar even harder. Stress burns through chromium faster than most people realize, and every blood sugar spike causes more chromium loss, spiraling the problem deeper. The cardiovascular benefits are significant. Chromium lowers triglycerides by 15 to 20%, raises HDL cholesterol by 8 to 12%, and drops total cholesterol by 10 to 15%. Blood pressure falls by 5 to 8 points systolic, and heart disease risk decreases by 25% in diabetics who maintain optimal levels. Food sources provide some chromium, though amounts vary wildly due to soil depletion. Broccoli delivers about 11 micrograms per half-cup serving. Grape juice offers around 8 micrograms per cup, though diabetics should use it carefully. Whole wheat bread provides approximately 3 micrograms per slice. Garlic contributes roughly 5% of daily needs per teaspoon dried. Egg yolk supplies close to 4% per large egg. For therapeutic doses, supplements become necessary. The polynicotinate form proves superior to picolinate because it offers better insulin support with less risk of weight gain that picolinate sometimes causes in obese individuals. Dosage ranges from 200 to 400 micrograms daily, taken 30 minutes before your largest meal to maximize the effect on post-meal glucose. Polynicotinate binds chromium to nicotinic acid, creating a stable compound that your body absorbs efficiently without the concerns some researchers have raised about picolinate's long-term effects. Safety considerations matter. Chromium can enhance the effects of insulin and diabetes medications, so you need to monitor blood sugar closely when starting supplementation to avoid unexpected lows. People with kidney issues should consult their doctor before using chromium, as impaired kidney function can allow chromium to accumulate. Start with 200 micrograms and assess your response before increasing the dose. Most people tolerate chromium well, but exceeding 1,000 micrograms daily long-term may cause problems. But here's what most people miss. Getting glucose into cells is only half the battle. If those cells don't respond properly to insulin's signal, sugar stays high no matter how well chromium works. That's where the second mineral changes everything. Vanadium stands as the trace mineral that mimics insulin at the cellular level, acting like a backup key when your body's insulin signaling has become impaired. While most doctors never mention it and standard blood panels don't test for it, vanadium offers a unique mechanism that works independently of how much insulin your pancreas produces or how well your insulin receptors function. This mineral activates the same pathways inside your cells that insulin normally triggers, essentially bypassing some of the resistance that makes diabetes so hard to control. The deficiency checklist for vanadium centers on persistent high blood sugar despite medications, rising insulin resistance markers in lab work, and metabolic syndrome patterns that worsen despite treatment. The mechanism behind vanadium's power centers on its ability to activate insulin receptor pathways independently. When insulin binds to its receptor on the cell surface, it triggers a cascade of signals inside the cell that ultimately move glucose transporters to the membrane and activate enzymes for glucose storage. Vanadium mimics this cascade without requiring insulin to bind first. It acts like a master key that opens the same locks insulin opens, but through a different entrance. This means vanadium can improve glucose uptake even when insulin resistance has made your cells deaf to insulin's normal signals. Research on vanadil sulfate, the most studied form of vanadium, demonstrates its insulin mimetic effects clearly. Studies show vanadil sulfate improving glucose uptake in muscle cells and reducing the amount of insulin people with diabetes need to control their blood sugar. In animal models of diabetes, vanadium supplementation reduces blood glucose levels significantly while also improving how cells respond to whatever insulin is present. The mineral enhances glucose disposal, meaning your body clears sugar from your bloodstream faster after meals. It improves muscle glycogen storage, helping your muscles pull glucose out of circulation and store it properly. Vanadium also reduces hepatic glucose production, stopping your liver from dumping excess sugar into your blood overnight when you're not eating. How deficiency happens reveals why vanadium remains so overlooked. Standard medical care rarely discusses trace minerals beyond the basics, and doctors don't routinely test vanadium levels even in diabetics with poor control. Refined diets that dominate modern eating provide almost no vanadium, as processing removes it from foods. Unlike more common minerals, vanadium deficiency doesn't produce obvious symptoms that would prompt testing. Instead, it shows up as treatment-resistant diabetes that doctors address by adding more medications rather than checking for missing nutrients. The benefits extend beyond glucose control to include better muscle glycogen storage for stable energy between meals and reduced hepatic glucose production that stops the dawn phenomenon many diabetics experience. Food sources of vanadium exist but provide only small amounts. Mushrooms contain the highest concentrations, with some varieties offering several micrograms per serving. Shellfish, particularly oysters and mussels, provide moderate amounts. Black pepper contains trace vanadium, as do dill and parsley, though you would need to consume unrealistic quantities to meet therapeutic needs through food alone. The realistic amounts available from diet means supplementation becomes necessary for anyone seeking vanadium's insulin mimetic effects. Supplement protocols for vanadium require more caution than chromium, And there's a dosage mistake most people make that either causes side effects or delivers zero results. Vanadium can cause gastrointestinal sensitivity at higher doses, but the real issue is how you time it. The effective dosage range spans from 10 to 100 milligrams of vanadyl sulfate daily, with most studies using 50 to 100 milligrams to see significant metabolic effects. Timing matters because taking vanadium with meals minimizes the I upset some people experience. The mineral absorbs better when taken with food, and spreading the dose across 2 or 3 meals rather than taking it all at once reduces the chance of nausea or stomach discomfort. Absorption considerations become important with vanadium because not all forms absorb equally well. Vanadyl sulfate, where vanadium is bound to sulfate, shows better absorption and tolerability than some other vanadium compounds. Some research suggests that taking vanadium with vitamin C may enhance absorption, though this needs more study. What's clear is that consistent daily dosing over weeks or months produces better results than sporadic use, as vanadium's effects build gradually rather than appearing overnight. Safety considerations require attention because vanadium is a powerful mineral that affects insulin signaling directly. GI sensitivity at higher doses is the most common side effect, with some people experiencing mild cramping, nausea, or loose stools when they first start supplementation or when doses exceed their tolerance. Starting with lower doses like 10 to 25 milligrams and gradually increasing allows your body to adapt. Interactions with diabetes medications matter significantly because vanadium enhances insulin action, potentially causing blood sugar to drop lower than expected. Anyone taking insulin or oral diabetes drugs needs to monitor glucose closely when adding vanadium and should work with their doctor to adjust medication doses as needed. The importance of medical supervision cannot be overstated. Vanadium affects the same pathways that diabetes medications target, creating the possibility of additive effects that could cause hypoglycemia if not monitored properly. Kidney function monitoring becomes essential for anyone using vanadium long-term, as impaired kidneys may not clear vanadium efficiently, allowing it to accumulate. People with existing kidney disease should not use vanadium without explicit approval and monitoring from their nephrologist. If you're wondering which specific forms and dosages to look for, I've linked the exact supplements that match the research we just covered in the description below. This way you don't end up with the wrong form or a dosage that won't deliver results. Now, chromium moves glucose and vanadium makes cells respond, but there's a problem. The cells that actually produce insulin are under constant attack from oxidative stress, and when they burn out, no amount of glucose transport or insulin signaling can save you. Manganese stands as the antioxidant mineral that protects insulin-producing beta cells from the oxidative burnout that eventually destroys your pancreas's ability to make insulin. While chromium helps glucose enter cells and vanadium makes those cells respond to insulin, manganese guards the source itself, the delicate beta cells in your pancreas that manufacture every molecule of insulin your body uses. Without adequate manganese, these cells face relentless attack from free radicals and inflammatory compounds that high blood sugar generates. Over time, this oxidative stress kills beta cells one by one, and once they're gone, they don't regenerate. No amount of glucose transport or insulin signaling matters when your pancreas can no longer produce sufficient insulin. The deficiency checklist for manganese includes slow wound healing, joint discomfort without obvious cause, bone weakness that increases fracture risk, and blood sugar instability that worsens despite unchanged diet and medication. Oxidative stress markers climb in blood tests, showing your body is under siege from free radical damage. The mechanism behind manganese's protective power centers on superoxide dismutase, one of your body's most critical antioxidant enzymes. This enzyme requires manganese to function, and without adequate manganese, SOD activity plummets. Superoxide dismutase neutralizes superoxide radicals, highly reactive molecules that damage cell membranes, DNA, and proteins throughout your body. Beta cells face particularly intense oxidative stress because glucose metabolism generates massive amounts of these radicals, and beta cells naturally have lower antioxidant defenses than most other cell types. When manganese levels fall, beta cells lose their primary shield against this oxidative assault. The radicals attack mitochondria where energy production occurs, damage the endoplasmic reticulum where insulin is manufactured, and trigger inflammatory pathways that accelerate cell death. Research linking manganese status to pancreatic function demonstrates clear connections between adequate manganese and preserved beta cell mass. Studies show that manganese supplementation reduces markers of oxidative damage in diabetic animals while improving insulin secretion capacity. In humans, manganese status correlates with glucose metabolism efficiency, with higher manganese associated with better glycemic control. The mineral supports not just antioxidant defense but also proper insulin synthesis, as manganese-dependent enzymes participate in the biochemical pathways that assemble insulin molecules from their precursor proteins. How deficiency happens exposes problems with modern agriculture and diet, but there's a hidden issue that makes the problem worse, and it's sitting in your supplement cabinet right now. Soil depletion has stripped manganese from farmland across vast regions, meaning crops grown in these soils contain far less manganese than the same crops did decades ago. Competition with iron and calcium for absorption creates additional problems because most people consume plenty of these minerals, which then block manganese uptake in the intestines. Refined grain consumption removes what little manganese remains in processed foods, as milling strips away the manganese-rich outer layers of grains. Diabetics face extra risk because high blood sugar increases urinary manganese loss, creating the same vicious cycle seen with chromium where the disease itself depletes the mineral needed to control it. The benefits extend beyond pancreatic protection to include improved insulin secretion, strengthened antioxidant defense throughout your body, bone health support that prevents osteoporosis, and reduced systemic inflammation. That accelerates diabetic complications. Food sources rich in manganese can help maintain adequate levels if you choose carefully. Pecans stand out with approximately 1.3 milligrams per ounce, making them one of the densest sources available. Brown rice provides about 2 milligrams per cooked cup, far exceeding what white rice offers after processing removes the manganese-rich bran. Chickpeas deliver roughly 1.7 milligrams per cooked cup while also supporting blood sugar control through their fiber content. Spinach supplies around 0.8 milligrams per cooked cup, along with other minerals diabetics need. Pineapple offers about 0.8 milligrams per cup of fresh chunks, providing a fruit option for those who can tolerate its natural sugars in moderation. Supplement protocols for manganese require precision because the therapeutic window between beneficial and excessive sits narrower than with chromium or vanadium. The dosage range spans from 2 to 5 milligrams daily, with most people finding 2 to 3 milligrams sufficient for antioxidant support and beta cell protection. Timing matters because manganese absorbs best when taken with food, but away from calcium and iron supplements that interfere with uptake. Taking manganese at a different meal than your calcium or iron supplements ensures better absorption. Some research suggests splitting the dose if you use amounts above 3 milligrams, though most people stay below this threshold. Absorption optimization becomes important given manganese's competition with other minerals. Vitamin C may enhance manganese absorption when taken together, though the effect is modest. Avoiding high-dose calcium supplements within 2 hours of manganese gives the manganese a clear path for uptake. Phytic acid in grains and legumes binds manganese and reduces absorption, so taking supplements away from high-phytate meals improves bioavailability. Safety considerations require attention because manganese can accumulate in the brain if intake exceeds 11 milligrams daily. Very high doses sustained over long periods can cause neurological symptoms resembling Parkinson's disease. Sticking to 2 to 5 milligrams daily keeps you safely in the therapeutic range. Space manganese at least 2 hours away from antibiotics, antacids, and other minerals to ensure proper absorption. You now know the 3 minerals that control blood sugar at the cellular level, and if you want the exact forms and dosages I mentioned, so you don't waste money on the wrong versions, I've linked them for you in the description below. That way you don't have to guess. But here's what most people don't realize. After 55, blood sugar problems aren't just about insulin resistance anymore. Your body changes, absorption changes, hormones shift, and the minerals that matter most for blood sugar control actually change with age. That means the three minerals we covered today may not be the ones your body needs most in this stage of life. The three video on screen right now shows you the three specific minerals that become critical after 55, the ones that help lower blood sugar and A1C when standard strategies stop working. If you're over 55 and serious about keeping your numbers under control, you need to watch that next. Don't stop halfway.